There's a certain kind of woman who seems to walk into any room and immediately shifts the atmosphere. People want to be around her, they respect her, they admire her, and deep down, everyone wonders what it is she's doing differently because it's not about looks, money, or status. It's about presence, character, and how she carries herself. And today, I want to show you exactly how to become that woman everyone wants. She knows her worth without announcing it because her sense of value doesn't depend on who notices her, who compliments her, or who validates her. True confidence isn't loud and it doesn't need to broadcast itself. It shows up quietly, steadily, in the way she carries herself, in the way she speaks, and in the way she treats herself when no one else is looking. A woman who truly knows her worth doesn't compete for attention because she understands that attention doesn't equal respect, and she doesn't chase approval because she knows approval doesn't equal value. Instead, she focuses on building a foundation of self-respect that cannot be shaken by rejection, criticism, or comparison. When she walks into a room, she doesn't need to announce who she is. People feel it in the way she holds her posture, the way her eyes meet theirs, the way her presence doesn't shrink to make others comfortable, and it's that quiet assurance that makes her magnetic. People notice her not because she's demanding attention, but because she's not. She is at ease with herself, and that ease makes others curious about her. It makes them wonder what she has that they don't, and the answer is simple: she has learned to validate herself first. When a woman knows her worth, she doesn't allow others to dictate how she should feel about herself. If someone criticizes her unfairly, she listens, she considers, but she doesn't let it break her. If someone tries to diminish her, she doesn't fight for their approval, she simply distances herself because her value isn't up for debate. She doesn't need to prove her worth to anyone because she already knows it. This is powerful because it changes the dynamic in every relationship she has. With friends, she doesn't overgive just to be liked. In dating, she doesn't settle for someone who treats her poorly because she fears being alone. In her career, she doesn't stay silent to be agreeable when she knows her voice matters. She lives by the truth that her worth is not determined by what others give to her, but by what she already carries within her. That kind of woman doesn't waste time comparing herself to others because she understands that comparison is a thief of peace. She knows her lane, she honors her journey, and she celebrates other women without feeling threatened. When she sees someone doing well, she's not jealous, she's inspired because she's secure enough to know that their success doesn't take away from her own. This makes her stand out because instead of competing for attention or recognition, she radiates an energy of abundance, and people are naturally drawn to that. They want to be around her because she makes them feel safe, not judged, not measured, but encouraged. She also sets the standard for how others treat her. If someone disrespects her, she doesn't beg them to change. She simply removes herself because she knows she deserves better. And because she refuses to accept less, she naturally attracts more. She doesn't lower her standards out of fear of losing people. She keeps them high because she knows that the right people will rise to meet them. This is not arrogance, it's self-respect, and people can tell the difference. Arrogance shouts, insecurity complains, but true confidence is quiet and it speaks volumes without saying a word. Every choice she makes reflects this inner knowing. From the way she carries herself in public to the way she speaks to herself in private, she reinforces her own value daily. She doesn't depend on someone telling her she's enough because she already lives as if she is, and that makes her unshakable. People are drawn to her because in a world where so many are desperately searching for validation, she stands as a reminder that the deepest validation is the one you give yourself. And that kind of woman becomes unforgettable because her worth is not performance-based, it's identity-based, and that identity cannot be taken away. She brings value into conversations, not through gossip, empty talk, or negativity, but through authenticity, encouragement, and substance. There is something deeply magnetic about a woman who chooses her words carefully, not to impress, but to uplift, not to dominate, but to connect. When she speaks, people listen, not because she is louder than others, but because she offers something worth hearing. She understands that conversations shape how people feel about themselves, and she makes sure that those who interact with her walk away feeling seen, respected, and even inspired. Instead of tearing people down with criticism or backhanded comments, she finds ways to highlight their strengths, and that makes her presence refreshing in a world where so many conversations are filled with negativity. People gravitate toward her because she gives more than she takes. When she speaks, she listens just as much, if not more. She doesn't interrupt just to add her story. She listens with intent, she pays attention, and she responds with thoughtfulness. That quality is rare because most people are waiting for their turn to talk rather than truly hearing the other person. By being different, by offering patience and presence, she makes others feel valued. And when someone feels valued in a conversation, they naturally want to return to that space again and again. She becomes unforgettable because she creates an emotional experience, not just an exchange of words. She also understands the weight of her words. She knows words can heal or hurt, build or destroy, inspire or discourage. So she uses them with intention. If someone comes to her with problems, she doesn't dismiss them or fuel the negativity. She provides a perspective that helps them see a solution or a silver lining. She doesn't minimize what they feel, but she doesn't leave them stuck in it either. That balance of empathy and wisdom makes her stand out. She is not the woman who whispers gossip in the corner, trying to drag others down because she knows that gossip may gain temporary attention, but it erodes long-term respect. She chooses integrity over entertainment, and people notice that. Her value also comes from authenticity. She doesn't put on a mask or pretend to be someone else just to impress. If she doesn't know something, she admits it. If she has a flaw, she owns it. And this honesty makes people trust her because they know she's not playing games. Authenticity is magnetic because it is so rare, and when combined with kindness and wisdom, it makes her voice powerful. She doesn't need to be the center of attention. She becomes the center of impact. Her words carry weight because they come from a place of truth. In group settings, she stands out not because she dominates, but because she contributes meaningfully. She asks thoughtful questions, she draws others in, and she makes people feel included. If someone is quiet or overlooked, she pulls them into the conversation with kindness, and that simple act can transform how others see themselves. She creates an environment where people feel safe to open up, where they feel their voice matters. That kind of energy is unforgettable because in a world full of noise, she becomes a voice of calm, encouragement, and genuine connection. Over time, people begin to associate her presence with value. They know that when she speaks, they'll gain something meaningful, whether it's clarity, encouragement, or a new perspective. They know that when she listens, they'll feel truly heard. And they know that when she's around, the conversation won't spiral into gossip, drama, or negativity, but instead will elevate them. She becomes the woman everyone wants to be around, not because she tries to impress, but because she chooses to invest her words and her energy into what actually matters. She understands that every interaction leaves a mark, and she chooses to leave people better than she found them, which is why her presence is always remembered and always wanted. She respects boundaries, both her own and those of others, because she understands that boundaries are not walls meant to keep people away, but guides that teach others how to treat her. A woman who values herself knows that saying yes to everything is not strength. It's often a sign of fear, fear of rejection, fear of conflict, or fear of being misunderstood. But when she learns to set limits, she begins to protect her peace, her time, and her energy. And in doing so, she becomes someone who is respected instead of taken for granted. Boundaries create clarity, and clarity creates trust. People know where they stand with her because she doesn't overpromise, she doesn't hide her feelings, and she doesn't tolerate disrespect disguised as love or friendship. When she respects her own boundaries, she teaches others to respect them too. If someone pushes her past her comfort zone in ways that are unhealthy, she doesn't stay silent just to keep the peace. She speaks up with calmness and firmness, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. She doesn't apologize for protecting her energy, and that kind of strength makes people see her differently. Instead of being easy to manipulate, she becomes a woman people know they cannot mistreat without consequences. That doesn't make her harsh, it makes her dependable because people always know where the line is, and they know she won't compromise her values just to be liked. She also respects the boundaries of others. She doesn't force people to share more than they are comfortable with. She doesn't pressure them into commitments they can't handle, and she doesn't intrude on their space emotionally or physically. This makes her trustworthy because people feel safe around someone who doesn't push them beyond what they're ready to give. Her relationships thrive because they are built on mutual respect, not control or manipulation. That balance of strength and empathy makes her stand out. She's not only protecting herself, she's honoring others at the same time. She understands that boundaries are a reflection of self-awareness. They show that she knows what she needs, what she values, and what she will not tolerate. This is powerful because so many people move through life unclear about these things, and that lack of clarity leaves them open to being used or disrespected. But when she knows her limits, she doesn't burn out trying to please everyone. She doesn't stay in toxic situations just because she's afraid to leave, and she doesn't confuse sacrifice with love. She can give freely because she gives from a place of choice, not obligation. That distinction changes everything. People are drawn to her because her boundaries create an atmosphere of security. They know she will not lash out suddenly because she's been overextended. They know she won't secretly resent them for asking too much because she already communicates her limits clearly. That consistency makes her reliable. Instead of spreading herself thin and losing her identity, she guards her energy so she can show up fully in the places that matter most. People admire that because deep down, everyone wishes they had the courage to protect themselves the same way. And when she says no, she says it without guilt. She doesn't apologize for protecting her peace because she knows that every time she says no to something that drains her, she is saying yes to something that builds her. That shift in mindset is what makes her powerful. She doesn't see boundaries as selfish. She sees them as necessary. And people who may not like her boundaries at first eventually respect her for them because respect always follows clarity. By living this way, she teaches others how to value her, but even more importantly, she teaches others how to value themselves. And that influence makes her unforgettable because she becomes a model of strength, peace, and dignity that people want to emulate. She invests in her growth mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically because she understands that becoming the woman everyone wants isn't about perfection. It's about progress. She is not the same person she was a year ago, a month ago, or even a week ago because she has made it her mission to evolve. Growth is not something she waits for life to hand her. It is something she actively seeks out every single day. She reads, she learns, she reflects, she challenges herself to think differently, and she welcomes discomfort when it pushes her to become stronger. Mentally, she is curious, always open to new ideas and perspectives, because she knows wisdom doesn't come from pretending to have all the answers, it comes from remaining teachable. She surrounds herself with knowledge that builds her mind rather than distracts it, and this gives her an edge in conversations, in decisions, and in how she carries herself. People notice a sharp mind. They notice someone who is aware, thoughtful, and intentional, and they are drawn to it because depth is rare. Emotionally, she invests in her healing. She doesn't let old wounds control her present. She does the work to process her pain, to understand her triggers, and to grow beyond them. This doesn't mean she is untouched by hurt. It means she refuses to let it define her. She doesn't lash out at others because of unhealed baggage. She doesn't cling to people out of fear of abandonment. And she doesn't sabotage her relationships because of unresolved insecurities. Instead, she chooses maturity. She practices patience, forgiveness, and self-awareness. And that emotional intelligence makes her stand out. People feel safe with her because she doesn't bring chaos wherever she goes. She brings steadiness. Her emotions don't control her. She manages them with grace, and that is magnetic. Spiritually, she invests in her grounding. Whether through faith, meditation, reflection, or gratitude, she connects to something bigger than herself, and that connection gives her a sense of peace that others can feel. She isn't easily shaken by life's storms because her foundation runs deep. She knows who she is and what she stands for, and that certainty makes her unmovable in a world where so many are swayed by every opinion, every trend, and every challenge. She radiates a calm presence that draws people in because people naturally gravitate toward those who have found an anchor in the middle of chaos. Her spiritual growth gives her strength, compassion, and humility, and that balance is unforgettable. Physically, she cares for her body, not out of vanity, but out of respect. She understands that health is wealth and that how she treats her body affects her energy, her mood, and her presence. She doesn't need to be flawless. She needs to be consistent. She fuels herself with good choices. She moves her body. She rests when she needs to, and she takes pride in presenting herself with dignity. People notice not just how she looks, but how she carries herself, how her energy feels when she walks into a room. A woman who values her physical well-being exudes vitality, and that energy is contagious. The beauty of her growth is that it never stops. She is always evolving, always seeking, always becoming. She doesn't settle into comfort zones for long. She challenges herself to rise higher. She's not in competition with anyone else. She's in competition with who she was yesterday, and that mindset makes her unstoppable. People want to be around her because she inspires them to grow too. She doesn't preach about her progress, she lives it, and her life becomes proof of what consistent growth can look like. In her presence, people feel motivated to push themselves, to think deeper, to live better. She becomes a mirror of possibility, reminding others that transformation is always within reach, and that kind of influence makes her unforgettable because growth is magnetic and she chooses it every single day. She radiates peace and grace not because life has spared her from difficulties, but because she has chosen composure over chaos. She has learned that storms will always come, challenges will always arrive, and people will not always act the way she wishes, but her power lies in how she responds. She refuses to let anger control her. She refuses to let bitterness poison her, and she refuses to let drama pull her into cycles of negativity. Instead, she chooses a steady calm, a presence that reassures rather than agitates. When she walks into a room, people feel it because her energy is different. She doesn't bring tension, she brings relief. She doesn't bring confusion, she brings clarity. That kind of spirit is magnetic because in a world where so many are overwhelmed, stressed, and reactive, she becomes a source of calm strength that people want to be near. Her peace doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes from inner discipline. She knows how to regulate her emotions, how to pause before reacting, and how to keep perspective when situations get heated. If someone tries to provoke her, she doesn't rise to every bait because she knows that not every battle is worth fighting. She saves her energy for what truly matters. That restraint is not weakness, it is power, because it shows mastery over self. Grace is not about being passive, it's about being intentional. She can correct someone without humiliating them, she can disagree without hostility, and she can defend herself without losing her composure. That balance of strength and kindness makes her unforgettable. She radiates grace because she chooses compassion over judgment. When someone makes a mistake, she doesn't rush to shame them, she tries to understand. When someone hurts her, she sets boundaries but doesn't let hate take root in her heart. This doesn't mean she excuses wrong behavior. It means she refuses to let bitterness own her. That decision protects her peace, and others notice. They feel safe around her because they know she won't constantly criticize, belittle, or gossip. Instead, she brings an atmosphere of acceptance, and people are drawn to that. Everyone longs for a space where they can simply be, and she becomes that space. Her grace also shows in how she carries herself physically and socially. She is not frantic in her movements, not harsh in her tone, and not careless in her words. She takes her time, she chooses her expressions, and she maintains a presence that feels effortless yet intentional. She doesn't demand respect through intimidation, she earns it through consistency. She doesn't rush to prove herself, she allows her character to speak for her. That kind of presence lingers long after she leaves a room because people remember how she made them feel. She radiates peace because she has done the inner work to silence the noise. She doesn't compare her journey to others. She doesn't chase validation, and she doesn't measure herself against impossible standards. Her sense of self is rooted, which means her spirit isn't easily shaken by temporary circumstances. She has learned that calm doesn't come from everything being perfect. It comes from choosing stability in the middle of imperfection. And that choice makes her powerful because it allows her to keep moving forward no matter what happens around her. People are drawn to her because being near her feels like relief. She doesn't drain energy, she restores it. She doesn't create more problems, she finds solutions. She doesn't amplify tension, she diffuses it. Her peace becomes contagious, her grace becomes inspiring, and her presence becomes a reminder that strength doesn't have to be loud. It can be soft, steady, and unwavering. And because she embodies that balance, she stands out in every environment, leaving a lasting impression that makes others not just admire her, but desire to learn from her and carry a little of that same peace into their own lives